draft. NIP chose blue side. BLG will end up on first pick red side. Probably the most traditional draft we've seen consistently across the split so far. And I'm already seeing 380 carry bans in the first 4 bans here, Dimitri.
Yep. Getting rid of all of these. This is going to leave out a lot of the big champions, and most of the junglers and supports didn't actually get changed. So if you're wondering, like, are we going to see a lot of differences? Karma, Pantheon, Jarvan, these 3 still up and available is quite shocking to me. So we'll see what the priority is going to be. And I find it very interesting that NIP, with right of first selection, chose blue side.
Yeah.
Maybe just trying to drill some extra 2v2s, maybe making it a little bit easier for them to contest grubs, which is obviously super important when we're talking about top lane.
All right, so J4 was the first selection there, one of those Z-tier champions all batteries is talking about for Shun. And the turn here for NIP is to get Care onto a blind Annie, and then they're going to lock the Lulu, which does provide decent options to pair with, but obviously likely signals to the Yunara look here for Assum. Do BLG actually try and steal it away and break up another one of those powerful duos? That's all we've been seeing in Split 2. You know, splitting up these duos. Ash Sheriff, he get taken away. Corki Nami split up, barred away from Ezreal. But it looks like Corki Lock-in just going to come through here.
Yeah, I wonder if you're going to be willing to make this trade because you know probably still going to be Nami. I honestly would still not hate a Karma. I think Karma versus Lulu and Annie has a ton of value, but Corki Nami early game is just that much more heavily skewed. And right now, I think NIP are going to be hard-pressed to find a jungler that's going to be able to engage very well. Nocturne can be an option as we get into 4-5, but because they want to make sure they lock down this Yunara, I think Banphase might try to pinch NIP here.
We'll have to see. This is going to be, you know, this is a rare territory where we're going to get one of the few games this split that Karma will not be banned or selected. It really does happen in this current meta. It is also just going to be the 3rd Nami game here for On, who is definitely, you know, flexed a lot of those unique champions. So it feels a little odd whenever he just goes for one of those stronger 2v2 lanes. Getting set, though, for the second phase of bans. Definitely looking to target away mid laners you don't want to deal with. This makes a ton of sense for NIP. Just try protecting Care on this blind Annie to see if they can make his life a little bit more comfortable going up against Knight, which is always the biggest of tasks.
Yeah, you're going to have to be really careful because looking at how this game should play out, Corki Nami early, yes, you can play. I think this 2v2 is actually really strong on one item, just having Trinity Force or maybe a Cyclo Sword as we saw earlier. With that, an Imperial Mandate is really dangerous. I think right now what NIP should be focused on is, like you're saying, protecting Care, not just in the lane, but I think on side lanes this is going to be really dangerous. Having Nami Jarvan out on the map is incredibly, like, really, really bad, I think, is in very simple terms. Because Knight is going to hunt you down, and if you give him things like Akali, if he's going to be playing things like his Rise, I just think that NIP are going to be in a really tough position, especially from a composition where they're going to need frontline and they're going to kind of need to build time for this Yunara.
A sigh of relief for NIP fans to see that Akali ban come down. That was the champion once you said it, pinged in my head. That is a worrisome one for really everyone on NIP. Maybe could have theorized, Lulu could be a decent counter into Akali sometimes with the polymorph, but they just don't want to even deal with that. The Vayne ban going to come down here to try and cover for Bin. So they take away the Vayne out of Hoya's hands. And it would be interesting to see them lock top lane here, knowing that they do have the counter pick. Counterpicking for jungle is a decent rarity. We'll have to see if this one does get locked in.
I think it's just way better to give Hoya counterpick. I mean, not just for the fact that Jarvan is there, but one, this is a Nocturne that's no longer going to be in the game thanks to Fearless later on. And what I think is more interesting is that Hoya has done a very good job this split of just playing neutralizer, just playing his things like Gragas, which I think are really good, making sure that he has a matchup that's going to stop basically any aggression early and provide some utility for his team is great. BLG, though, they want to play this map spread. I think basically what this game is going to come down to, as with most Bin Gnar games, is how much pressure on side lanes can he get. If he has a gold lead, he can basically shove his wallet down NIP's throat and make it near impossible for them to try to play objectives when Bin is literally just sitting underneath someone else's turret or pushing for a tier 2 later.
We do see that counter pick, though, come through for Hoya. That is the Jace lock-in. And if I'm not mistaken, this should be his first Jace game of the split here. So,
yes,
interesting to see him lock this one in. And it's an aggressive stance to take against Bin. And if you missed our pre-show, right now, the stats are showing that if Bin can get ahead at 15 minutes, BLG are near untouchable. So factor that in, knowing how often we've seen Jaces, even in the Gnar matchup, usually come out with a sizable gold lead, barring any sort of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I think early 2v2 is going to be really exciting to watch. I think with Ryze and Jarvan, I am looking at BLG to be slightly more centered around the early game. So seeing if they can stack dragons, really leverage the fact that you have a Jarvan and a Ryze to attack sides, can, I think, open up the game for BLG.
All right, we'll have to see here. A bit of extra motivation in this matchup for Bilibili Gaming. Not just the factor that they kind of have to start protecting themselves at the top of Group Ascend with some surging teams, your ALs, your JDGs, really making their way up the standings, but the fact that BLG, one of their too few losses in this split, came at the hands of NIP in 2-0 fashion. So revenge has to be on the mind as we take our eyes on to Summoner's Rift here. Game 1, Bilibili Gaming, Ninjas in Pyjamas.
If you couldn't tell, we are in NIP's home arena in Shenzhen, by the way. So, just makes sense. I would be remiss to mention that we are in an early invade meta, and we see this every single Nocturne game. This champion, with his Q and his passive, is essentially a Raptors deleting machine. You can always invade with this champion, and it is near impossible a lot of the times to move him off of this camp. So interesting to see that NIP went for the top side. They got vision. They know that Shun is going to be on the bottom side. And so similarly, BLG, with Shun's HP bar, walk in, get some early priority, and just try to spot where this Nocturne.
Speaking on priority, we see Zhuo use the heal. That's always an indicator of bottom lane trying to go for right priority. It's, oh my god, let's just get rid of all of our other summoners. Both AD carry straight barrier. And On drops the heal as well, but it's still BLG that will have that level 2 spike first. They'll have that push, but as we always talk about with Guwon, and we appreciate his creativity, you called out the invade and the Raptors, how they can really affect the map here. Guwon steals away the Raptors of Shun, but he's not done with just that one camp, Dimitri.
Yeah, he knows that Shun has to be on the bottom side. I mean, it's Jarvan. This champion does not clear particularly quickly, so Jarvan, in the time it takes him to do 3 camps, Nocturne's already finished Krugs. Is he going to commit to the red buff? Because I think there is some logic to say, hey, instead of finishing this red buff, I'll take my recall, I'll try to match him at my red or even at my Krugs, and essentially leave Shun with 4 camps to do the entire game. Doesn't elect to do that. We're seeming like we're going to get a split map, and I think a lot of respect being shown by Assum and Zhuo by getting that Yunar to have a recall early.
Gets back to base, and will come away with that Cole, which I think is a great item, especially over for the Yunar in particular, with how auto-attack based she is. But Shun is going to punish Zhuo, who does not get that reset off. Polymorph comes through, but the flag and drag first. And Shun will secure first blood. He does not die to the turret. I thought you were right there, Hulk, but he gets away. There's no trade, and Assum shows up a little too late to try and find the trade on low health members. At the very least, to allow Guwon to take away even more camps here as he gets access to that bot scuttle to try and increase his lead.
Yeah, Shun also had to flash because that's where I was like, oh, hey, Yunara's here. He might be giving over kill. Care?
Oh my god, Care? Is that a... Okay, I was curious if that was an execute, but you know what? That is a statement made from Care, just to burn through Night and say, we're trading lives here, buddy.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit fast here in this game. It's a 600 gold lead opening up for BLG, and he will TP back in. And I think for Shun, this is a really dangerous prospect. You are not going to have mid-priority. It's going to come down to a smite fight. Bin's going to move, but... Oh my god. We're giving this up? Okay.
Bin.
Quite respectful, I think, of their opponents. The threat that I was looking at for Guwon is that if he gets both scuttles and finishes topside camps, he's actually going to leapfrog Shun in not only his jungle quest experience, but just an experience. Oh my god, Shun!
hey, man, it's the BLG way, right? I must do what is needed of my mid laner.
Yeah.
So get the bubble landing onto Assum. A good time polymorph there from Zhuo's going to slow down Viper, but he Valkyries forward. Phosphorus Bomb going to need to be barriered by Assum. Viper holding on to that flash. He's going to force Assum to do it. Bubble flash from On is going to grab Zhuo, who is out of flashes, and Viper will still end up with a kill. What a turnaround from the 2v2 we knew in this series first time round.
And they know that Nocturne can't be on this side of the map, so that's another turret plate. BLG, their 2v2, really on lock. This was a very good adaptation from BLG. I mean, Shun coming down to this bottom lane to get the first blood, and now they're continuing to bully them. Slayer, I won't lie. We were talking about it in the draft. You were like, Yunara Lulu, not one of the strongest 2v2s. I really feel like if you can get these guys, as long as Yunara has her fully stacked Q with Lulu, she actually wins a lot of the trades, but not when this is the scenario you're put in. Not when your bot lane's already 0-2 and Viper's making his way to a Trinity Force.
Yeah, and I do feel like, that's a valid call out to the power of Yunara Q. One of the bottom lanes that maybe could even match that and go further is, of course, the Corki Nami.
Yeah.
So even if they weren't this far behind, it would have been a tough task. But reality check is that now Assum and Zhuo are put down in the dirt so far. And this is going to open up that conversation we started having about can NIP win without Assum and Zhuo getting ahead early. We're going to see Shun pay a visit back towards this very bottom lane. Guwon in the area, but it's just going to be a clearer vision.
Guwon doesn't have his upgraded smite, neither does Shun. They could try to
On
pinch.
has first move. On does have first move here. The Rune Prison is not going to land from Knight, though, so Guwon just gets pushed out.
Really want control of bottom side. Again, I think for BLG, the fact that you're already up is good. This is part of what I wanted to see from your composition, getting an early advantage.
Oh, there's that Q with the Valkyrie, gets extra damage. Assum's just completely dead, and the Bebel from On finds its mark once more. Man, you can just tell Viper and On came back into this matchup with some vengeance. A double kill to Viper, a 3-0 Corki, and BLG off and running through their bottom lane.
All right, Shun, never mind. That first gank was literally masterclass, and you basically won your team the game. You're up 1,000 gold bottom lane, 0-4, 2 plates already taken, and guess what? Grubs hasn't even spawned yet. Look at what BLG are doing with a lead now, and what did we ask? We wanted to see more of anything from the solo lanes on the top side of NIP, but they can't get to play the game if your bottom lane's already out. No dragon being taken yet. We'll look at this replay one more time, but just the early damage and Assum. You have no summoners, and the wave's pushed away from him. This is a unenviable position to be in as bottom lane. You're already losing, and you're not even allowed to touch the wave, and now you just died for it, and now the wave's going to get pushed. There's crystalline overgrowth growing on your turret. That's just more gold going over to BLG.
And what did you say when we talked about the threat of multi... Okay, hold on. Bin? Flash from Hoya. Shun was there. He has Cataclysm, but they're not going to look to turn on to Hoya. So, hey, you know what? There's a win for NIP somewhere.
What were we going to get to? Give it to me.
Oh, you mentioned, like, with BLG, they can win through their solos most of the time, and then Viper can just randomly decide to pop off.
Yeah.
I think Viper's randomly decided to pop off.
Randomly's a word to describe it. I do distinctly remember. Yeah, occasionally is probably a better word. I don't think the Shun gank was very random. That one I feel like was a little more premeditated.
Yeah, good point.
And so NIP, thankfully for them, it's not all doom and gloom for the first 10 minutes of the game. They will get the first dragon, so hopefully that gives them some kind of breathing room in this game. And with Nocturne having ultimate, and specifically Knight not having Realm Warp, I do think there's some angles for them to look, whether that's onto Bin or them trying to re-enter for these Grubs, but doesn't seem like they're going to have any vision of this.
So the Grubs traded here for the Dragon. I know, Ulk, you've been a pretty big proponent that you feel like Grubs are in a much stronger spot when you can make this trade here, and also really reinforces that identity you talked about once we saw Knight's Rise come through, that both Bin and Knight are going to be very threatening and hard to kind of push away side lane threats. So the fact that they have access to, those Void Mites, all 3 Grubs, is really going to accelerate that classic all-out blitz BLG style we know and love.
Mm-hmm. We didn't touch on this before. We did see some of the new runes here. Knight going for the Deathfire Touch. I think it is quite interesting that Hoya has actually decided to go for Storm Raider Surge. as soon as he dies the first time and he doesn't maintain a lead, I think it is going to be increasingly more difficult for him to actually utilize this keystone. So not going for the more consistent option like maybe Grasp or Conqueror or Electrocute might backfire. We'll see. If he ends up winning and he starts doing well, then that Storm Raider Surge is going to give him a massive boost in movement speed and slow resist, which would be great into this Gnar. But we have yet to really see NIP play to these other lanes outside of the catastrophe that has been the spot lane.
Right. Maybe Hoya just misses phase rush, man. Maybe this is him, you know, kind of going through the
On Jace, though?
I mean, we've seen it before, right? I feel like.
Yeah.
We've seen it on Jace. But, you know, that's a fair shout nonetheless. I am very curious to see how the Deathfire touch here play here for Knight. Maybe that's also the fact that, you know, he feels like Storm Razors isn't that worth it. FaZe Rush was a big, you know, player on the rise, so we'll see how much, you know, that extra burn that you could see every one of these combos Knight throws down will really add value to, because on paper I didn't think of Rise as a champion that would necessarily enjoy a lot of what Deathfire touch brings, but hey, Knight knows something I don't.
So just reminding people for what Deathfire Touch does, it is dealing ability damage to an enemy champion, inflicts a burn, scaling damage every half a second over that duration, and then after 3 seconds, if the burn is still there, it is increased. I think for Rise, that's kind of perfect. You're going to be slinging spells repeatedly. You're going to get
that's a good point.
Multiple different overloads in a fight with Spell Flux, so there is some room for this to be. I'm more interested as to see what boots he's going to go. We've had a lot of discussion about specifically Rise and what he's been going. I know we've had 2 pro games today with the new patch of going for the Gluttonous Greaves.
Gluttonous Greaves, yep. Those boots are so intriguing. I know Rafa has talked a lot about how maybe he feels like this could introduce a lot more AD mids into the meta, even maybe some of those like marksmen that used to really enjoy playing around the mid lane in particular. But that is a conversation for a much different game, because unfortunately in this one, I don't think we have a single champion that will really look to go for the Gluttonous Greaves.
You know, it's very much a item that is great in solo queue, where there is more randomness, there is more fighting, so you can actually get the stacks, you can get up to that 10% Omnivamp. Depending on what kind of game you're going to be playing, I just think the Omnivamp is broken. The fact that we added Omnivamp back into the game, goodbye Zhuo. Oh, we're giving an update. Oh, Nocturne showing.
Okay. So Viper with a little bit of respect, but now he's trading into Assum. He gets the Conqueror stacked up, but there's a Transcendent. The flash forward from Assum to get the Wild Growth knock up. Valk back away. Viper flashes, but here comes Guwon under the turret to find that shutdown. Sure, he'll go down to a dunk from Shun's Cataclysm, but that is a huge bounty gain there by the NIP jungler.
They're able to fight, but it's expensive. It is 1 kill. It goes on to Guwon, but I think the trade for it a minute before the Dragon is almost going to solidify that BLG will get this objective. No flash for Yunara, nor her barrier, and now you've kind of used some of your ultimates. Those will be back up for the fight, but trading those for Vipers, I don't know if that's a trade that I'd be willing to make. You're still down 2,000 gold here, and Yunara doesn't even get to hit plates in this trade. So watch where BLG are going to continue their gold leads. We're seeing most of the quests start to wrap up here in this game, and some focus towards the top side of the map. It seems like right now Shun just wants to get vision, see if he can track where Guwon is, and maybe play for Dragon on another wave.
There he is. Well, he found him. He just jumped right into his peripheral vision, nonetheless.
There you go.
Definitely is a little bit awkward for both these junglers without their ultimates trying to make plays towards this top side, especially Guwon. It's really hard for Nocturne to do much without that ult. Shun taking a look at a top lane dive and onto the TP, but that would be aggressive. Have the Dragon spawning on that bottom side, and Viper combining with Knight, already looking to kind of take over this part of the map, and also, as you mentioned with quests, shift lane assignments as bottom lanes make their way towards the mid lane.
Yeah. Shout out to Bin. This is a very respectful top lane thing to do. Like, you looked on a potential dive for me. I'm going to help you secure your red buff because I'm not doing anything on the wave anyway. Quite interesting. Coming back to some of the ithms, we did end up seeing that Knight is just going to go for the Chain Lace Crusher, so good job, brother. This is going to be Cyclo Sword, so that damage concern that I had, bonus lethality up front, and then just having what could really be very dangerous. I mean, we saw it on Corki in the last game for TT LNG. I think Jace, with the resistances that he can shred with his passive, plus this, and then Storm Raiders, maybe there's something here. I really feel like this could be a very interesting Jace champion here in this game 1.
Well, let's hope that Hoya can have room to really play out this new look for the Jace here, as Knight is going to walk into a brush to find Guwon, who gets a free fear down. Gets the layer some autos, on those swinging over. Nearly finds the bubble onto Guwon, so Knight should be fine. But all this pressure means that Shun feels a bit more confident going after this second dragon of the game. And while it is just a second dragon, it's always nice to kind of shut down the ever-evolving Soul win con whenever you can. So we go even through the first 2 Drakes here, take away that sort of play for NIP going forward.
Yeah, good job from Knight. It looks strange, I won't lie. Him walking into that brush with no vision on his walking, I was a little afraid. I was like, are you allowed to do this?
Yeah.
He got the turret. He gets to spend his gold. He is rather far ahead now that he has 4 stacks of the Rod of Ages and he's getting closer to that Seraphs. We're going to make a play onto Annie.
Yep, Care has stun available, dodges the flag and drag, but there's the Rune Prism. Tibbers comes out for the stun, but Knight has more than enough health and definitely enough damage to get on the board here and increase that lead over 1,000 in the mid lane department.
Well, they're going to go mid here, so Knight's going to continue pushing bottom lane. I wonder if Shun is going to really do anything. Bin is half HP, and there is a Guwon who is trying to finish Herald and maybe even rotate.
Tidal wave down. They've secured the eye. Light's going to go out, going using that defensively, but Zhuo sectioned off. There's Guwon going back forward. The Wild Growth does come through. They're trying to get rid of Viper. Flash over the wall.
There we go.
We'll get that first kill, but Shun has gotten rid of the AD carry, puts the shield up, and now has On and Bin joining into the fray to make sure this is a Bilibili Gaming win. One more knockup and a boomerang to take down Hoya. And Bilibili Gaming have broken open game 1 to the tune of a 5,000 gold lead before 15 minutes.
4 for 1, and you may have given over the Rift Herald, but, I mean, Bin's going to take over now on the side. An expensive fight here. They tried to go for Corki, but I don't think Corki still has a shutdown here. I guess we'll see it in the replay. Yeah, he doesn't have a shutdown. That's not extra gold you're getting from this play. So you're going to be down tempo, and he's not even alive for this play. I feel like NIP maybe sold themselves out here in this play just to try to get this objective. And look, you're going to have access to turret plates, but you're a team that really wants to get to those 4 items so that Yunara can be a thing. But maybe that's just me focusing in on the wrong things. Maybe they just want to say, look, we're going to play away from Yunara. She's going to eventually get to her items, hopefully. Let's try to get Hoya in a good spot as one of the remaining members here in this game that isn't down 1,000 gold.
Oh, my Viper. Oh,
Jesus
my
Christ.
Viper. Yeah, that is not even 2 item. Corki Nami showing its potency there. Flash out of Zhuo, and more importantly, they have to give up all the territory around mid lane, which means another tier 1 turret. The most important tier 1 turret will drop off the board here towards a BLG to even further push their gold lead. And back to what you were saying, though, about maybe the NIP game plan we've seen from their topside play, I do want to say I at least respect it, because they're trying to play towards Hoya, maybe not always towards Assum. And what timing to talk about Hoya here as he gets jumped on by Shun, who uses the same flag to drag Hoya's corpse back to the fountain there. Hoya, I'm sorry, man. I was really not trying to time that one up for you.
Yeah, it turns out Shun is very fed. He has 2 items on the Jarvan, and this is some of the concerns I had from draft. When you play Jace Annie versus a Ryze and a Jarvan, you're going to get hunted down on side lanes. So I'm honestly more surprised we haven't seen more of it, and maybe that's just because bot lane has been such a big focus for this team so far. BLG 18 minutes in, 7,000 gold lead. That's incredible. I have really no notes for them outside of maybe some individual stuff we have seen from them so far.
I agree. This is a resounding, stark contrast to the chaos that was game 1 the last 2 times these teams matched up. And also in particular, something we didn't touch on as much a little bit in the pre-show, I'm glad to see that Shun has responded with a really clean early game, even despite the vertical jungle. Bin here has been baited into a 1v2.
Okay.
And he is going to die. So, you know what? We're both caster cursing BLG. We were praising them both there, Alk, and of course Bin's just like, all right, guys, hold on. Let me bring us back down to earth a little bit.
I'm so sorry, Slayer, but it unironically does not matter. This kill onto Bin,
You're right.
It takes way too many resources from NIP. They didn't get anything else from that play. Holy hell. That was a massive big one rocket right onto Assum's face.
It's already
and look at
Knight.
Knight. Man. Yeah, he is still pushing bottom lane, and for NIP, I think getting this turret is super important. There is objective bounties here. You'll get 2 plates. that's fine, but all of that goes into Guwon. So, for all intents and purposes, BLG still ended up getting way more for this play than NIP, who initiated it to start.
And Knight Realm warps out to safety, but there's a TP coming on that pink ward, and there's the Paranoia. Flash from Guwon to follow Knight's flash.
Nice.
The fear will land. Hoya throws down the hammer. Seraph's shield will not save you, Knight. And he does drop. So there's an IP finding a pick and return.
But look at where they're at. Look at the minion wave. The minion wave is nowhere nearby. They can't even, they can try to take one more wave. They're still controlling the bottom side. You got 2 kills. You spent a ton of TPs for this. Now they can just corral them into the top side. And if they win big, BLG can move to the Baron in 5 seconds.
Well, they've already found Assum, who's trying to rotate up to his team that's so desperately far ahead on the map. Good flash get out of the Tidal Wave and the Cataclysm. That's Unarl, that's Flash, that's a huge fire stick taken out of this fight here for NIP. Shun flag and drags forward, does need a polymorph. And Timbers will help usher all of NIP back out through their own jungle, so it doesn't end up costing them too much. They don't, in fact, end up getting wrapped, but instead they've given up all the bot lane side control, and that means a free dragon for Bilibili Gaming.
Yeah, those last 2 plays, I say they don't matter because in the grand scheme of this game, I don't think they change what is feeling like the inevitable here for BLG, but I think at this point you are so far behind you kind of have to take down numbers plays where you are really investing a lot to try to get anything. This was really smart from Guwon. I respect the hell out of it for him for going for the flash so that he can use the fear just to make sure that he moves out of the way. The back half of this play is really costly for them, but again, they're already losing. They have to make something happen. Dragon does end up going over to BLG, and I really wish it was a more even game because I think the interaction of Cloud Soul for both of these compositions is actually really, really cool, but it's likely not going to be a big mover and shaker when we talk about how this game is going.
At the pace BLG are posting here, I don't think we even get a Cloud Soul because it definitely feels like when, Smash one more fight with how strong our Corki and our Ryze are in particular. Turn Baron, one more fight win, Baron win game. That is the current pace the BLG are at. His Viper does have to be a bit careful with the way he paths there. Doesn't necessarily get caught by Hoya and Guwon, who are continuing to try and hunt here. NIP mounting a really big presence around the mid lane right now, trying to see if anybody from BLG walks a little too far forward.
Thankfully for NIP, this bottom wave is going to take a long time for them to catch it, so they can play numbers up on mid. Assum is taking way too much damage, though, and ends up having to kind of walk forward. He does have 2 items, but this gives at least NIP some room to say, okay, we'll drop side lanes. If they decide to play heavy on mid, we will have the numbers until Bin is able to TP. But that's some of the power of this Nocturne. If you ult in time, you can prevent the enemy top laner from being able to join in one of these side lanes. Right now, Jason is going to show on bottom side. Did NIP or did BLG keep track of this TP for this Jace? Because if that's the case, this Baron is now up on the cards for them.
Looks like they didn't. Just going to make sure to reestablish a vision line on that top side and then return to the mid lane. Bin, again, showing a good respect here. We've seen him constantly caught on those side lanes. That was a spot where I thought he could have definitely gotten jumped on again, but he backs up with the wave and puts Hoya in the match with him. That TP you called out is back and available, so Hoya now will be able to match if a Baron does break out. But with resets coming through here for Bilibili Gaming, can maybe take a look at some of the items that are starting to come through. We're really waiting for Knight and Viper to get these components done into that 3rd item, and then these 2 will really be scary enough to show the gold lead that they've been holding on to at about 5,000 for the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, I just think that Viper, it doesn't really, to me, it's the items are already kind of there. He's already incredibly strong. On with this Mikhail's makes him nigh untouchable in a lot of these fights. And then I'm looking at Knight, who finished his Roa super early, got his Seraphs, looking like he's going to be picking up an Actualizer 3rd. He's already incredibly strong, and so this 3rd item is essentially going to cement a lot of the lead that BLG have.
Oh, Knight.
Does he get it in time?
Off in time? No, he gets feared! Knight's going to be picked off again here. The anti-stun's going to land. Hoya TP's in, gets the enhanced shock blast. Guwon finds the pick on the Knight. And now NIP feel like they're playing with house money. They've got Baron right there. They're going to make the call to go after this Baron 4v5. BLG stumbling a bit here after losing their key mid laner. Bin's going to have to look for a TP here. He doesn't have his Narbor's already going down. The TP will be committed. There's the flash from Carrot. He finds the finds on the Navi. Guwon goes through with the paranoia, gets the wild growth, makes sure Viper can't burst it back out. Viper and Shun have to flash away, the stun follows. Viper's picked off by Assum. NIP, what a bounce back here from a disasterly early game. They're gonna get a shot at Baron even stronger than before.
Oh my god, are they going to be able to do it? And now it's Nunu and Willup. It's Bin and Shun, 2v5. Can they do it? There are no buttons here for NIP to play.
Knight is up in mere seconds, but he doesn't have teleport. He doesn't have realm warp. It's a 2-on-5. As Bin looks to go mega, the polymorph comes through. Hoya flashes just in time. Bin is gone. Shun needs the hero steal to go in here. Cataclysm gets rid of Guwon and steals the Baron. No! Hoya gets rid of him and secures the Baron himself.
Oh my, look at the gold lead in this game. It has gone from 6,000 now down to 2. That catch on tonight, I didn't know if it was going to be enough for NIP to pull the trigger, but they win a massive fight being able to chase the support here. Last minute timing from Guwon, another clutch fear coming in from the jungler of Ninjas in Pyjamas. They snap this Rise off, and I think the timer that we got to see, this was 3-on-5. Bin taking a very extended time to take a TP. I think he needed to go immediately, and the hesitation or the shot calling there, not on point. They immediately pull off on, and that's it. That's 3 kills to start this off.
I love that NIP, once they saw Bin TPing on the other side of the fight, they then forced BLG on their strong side into a fight before Bin could even get there. Even with Meganar bar up and available, it didn't matter. Now BLG, Bin's face checking into Kero, drops the entire Tibbers combo onto him. The big Gnar is pushed out of the fight here. Guwon's gonna full commit with the paranoia. Flash from Bin doesn't matter. Guwon finds that kill, and he feels confident enough to keep pushing because he has his team behind him. Will come away from the BLG jungle, but that one pick should mean a dragon as well over at NIP. BLG have no business trying to shut this one down.
Well, I think we were technically right earlier. We were saying that Soul might not actually be a real prospect here in this game, but not for the reasons we thought. We thought it was going to be BLG steamrolling their opponents, but now the gold is almost entirely sopped up. We're getting to a 3-item Yunara at this point, and things are starting to get a little bit worrisome here. NIP, the map plays that they were able to accomplish, the fact that they're able to split against BLG, they're making a lot of good things happen, and the only person with the gold lead now for NIP for most of the game has been Hoya, and he is, I think his Jace is really starting to kind of make an impact here in this game.
He just came out of base. I'm curious, is he pushed? No, okay, so he's not at 4 items just yet, but already at 3.5. Yeah, this Jace is super scary. Serpent's Fang completed as well to kind of dissuade all the shields you get from a, Bin TPing in, the J4 shield. Most importantly, stuff like Seraph's shield for Knight as well to get that extra oomph of burst. And the NIP still have a couple more waves of this Baron push. With all the fighting, the one downside is they haven't really been able to claim a ton of structures. It's only for now the bot lane tier 1 turret they're able to grab on this Baron power play.
They were able to at least hit some of the bot waves there. They got Annie that turret. They'll get Jace this top tier 1. Yeah, they're using the Baron. They're going to be up 3,000 gold thanks to this. Slayer, what a back and forth game, and this really feels like how NIP won their first game versus BLG in the first round robin. It was BLG winning a lot of the early game. They had a Hextech Soul for crying out loud, and they still lost. So,
oh my God.
NIP,
BLG, they just keep face checking into NIP members. Luckily, Shun has the GA, but he's surrounded. He doesn't even get to drag himself back out. It's another skirmish that starts with a BLG member gifting themselves over.
I wish that I was recording our downtime before this series, because what did I say, Slayer? I was like, man, you know what's going to happen tonight? NIP Game 1, it's going to be a 40-minute slobber knocker. NIP are going to look like they're going to lose, and they're going to come back. I swear, guys, if I had the recording, this would be all 100% factual.
Well, at least you have witness testimony. I can attest to this being true, but yeah, we don't have the hard evidence, and we're not to that finish line just yet, right? It does still feel like, and BLG can win this game. It is anybody's game to take here. The Dragons are split. The gold lead is pretty split as well. And we're yet to see BLG really answer this NIP all-out blitz with their own 5v5 team fight. All of these sequences have been a BLG member getting picked off, BLG down numbers going into some of these fights. So This next 5v5 will likely get it towards the next Baron. Will really show if NIP have this comeback, or they just stick to their same game plan, which is going for picks here. But Bin is word to the wiser.
Something we haven't seen a lot of discussion about is these Phaelites. They kind of popped into the season. A lot of people were talking about them, and then that was it. I think these wards, giving such coverage into your own jungle, do make split pushing so much more valuable. If Bin doesn't have that, he probably has to just play that wave a lot differently than he did. So having Meganar gave him more HP. He also has the Sterix, so has a little bit of room to work with in terms of his survivability. But these Phaelites do change how teams tend to play on these really long lanes. When you have a Yunara, when you have an Annie with a Nocturne, it's very easy to get caught out. Right now, BLG are doing their due diligence, having Bin push on the bottom side of the map, and then move in for deep vision right before this dragon spawns.
Karen, though, has gotten a really good push going on this top side. So someone will have to go up there and answer it. As you mentioned, though, it plays towards the Baron strong side here, and Bin does have TP. But the thing we got to watch here now with Bin and playing weak side looking to TP back, he needs to manage his Gnar bar better. And he knows this Baron is looming in about 30 seconds. Also important to mention, Guwon has that GA access back up. Shun's is not. So Guwon can be ever more aggressive than we've already seen him.
It's 20 seconds. Jace is bottom side. Likelihood that we see Baron get pulled on spawn, not very high. And we did talk about some of those items starting to come through. Assum is about to recall and get a Infinity Edge. If you would have told me 0 and 4 at 10 minutes, Yunara Lulu is going to get to this point where they were down 2,000 gold, I call you crazy. But we're 31 minutes into this game, and I really feel confidently that NIP are more in favor to be able to win fights at this point.
The power dynamic between AD carries has definitely taken a huge shift here. His Viper also just trying to keep up in those items, but he does finally complete what is the Spear of Shojin. This is a new Corki build for sure compared to what we normally see here. The double black cleaver is coming through here for BLG, but we're not going to have a lot of time to dissect that because both of these teams are trying to get control of mid lane, knowing on either side a pretty big objective is on the board.
Bin, no Meganar. They were trying to see if they could play a little bit fast, if someone from NIP was going to take the bait and move forward. But Care, great control of vision, whether that's the Phaelite going into the river or it's just the blue buff. Oh my god, we are sending it for a Baron.
Yep, they're like, so point, we don't care about that NIP. They caught them far too down in river, and now look at everybody sprint their way back up. BLG's bluff will be called just as quickly as they started. They get pushed off, and now they have no shot at getting this Cloud Drake.
Slayer, I think we are seeing BLG a little desperate here. Not able to grab the Baron. They're going to move to top side. They'll get a wave, but they're still going to lose this Dragon. It'll be soul points here being acquired for Ninjas in Pyjamas. And man, what an exciting game here. I had questions, and I think a lot of the community were wondering, was the first series win versus BLG a mirage? Was it just, hey, we played well on the week? They had a very tough schedule going into that. It was going to be them versus AL, BLG, Top Esports. The BLG series was the one series that they did end up winning, but from then on, it was a 0-2 loss going into JDG. It was a 0-2 loss against Top Esports. So a lot of questions as to whether or not this team is even real caliber to make top 4.
And now the questions become, are NIP the kryptonite of BLG at this point?
Maybe.
The way this game has gone and the way it would reflect in the series, we're getting closer and closer to the sort of future prediction maximized from Alk Battery here. If we can get to 44 minutes, game is going to break open, though, with Shun looking for a flag and drag. Guwon is trapped in the Cataclysm. Guwon flashes out. Care drops the Timbers, then goes into Stasis. Shun does lose his GA as Assum uses the Arc of Rune to find that one. Bin TP's in, but he's in mini form. Immediately loses that TP shield, and Assum is more than willing to trade autos back with him. Still transcended. Shock Blast doesn't find its mark onto Bin. But enough poke has been waged on either side. Both teams are itching for a reset. There's Care that gets his off, and he has TP allowing him to rejoin, but both sides are going to walk away bruised and battered.
No kills, and man, Care is a mega MVP in that fight. I thought, okay, maybe someone from NIP is going to die here. He flashes forward, gets 3 people stunned up. If that had not immediately gotten Mikhail's by onto his AD carry, that could have been really messy for BLG. And now we're going to be going in. I mean, Baron and the Dragon not being up for 3 minutes, I'm a bit worried. I won't lie. The gold lead isn't enough for me to be super enthusiastic, but what I am looking at is the fact that there's no flash for this Annie anymore, which is a big part of her power budget. And until she finishes that Seeker's arm guard, turning it into a Zhonya's, it's something that maybe BLG could look to punish.
Goodbye, 60% of your HP on. Yeah, you can't take much more of those from the 4-item Jace. Also, another thing, you know, to also support NIP maybe in these fights. Again, it's another rotation of these jungler guardian angels, where Shun has lost access to his. Guwon's is still in his at his disposal, so it allows him to get a little more aggressive compared to Shun. On being down to half HP is making BLG a bit more skittish. And Care is trying to set up for this flank. Shun's going after the crab, but Shun gets trapped. Care pinches him, and that's the BLG jungler down. Again, Bilibili Gaming have to try and fight 4v5 into this Baron, but this time round, they're not even going to attempt it. Second Baron over to NIP.
NIP have just been more consistent in these fights. They've been better about being able to utilize their lead, and it was a disastrous early game that is now turned from rags to riches. Baron on the cards, and this Baron's going to overlap perfectly into the Dragon. And this might be Soul. I didn't want to talk about Cloud Soul because I thought the game was going to be kind of moving forward and we were going to be ending soon. But if you get Cloud Soul on champions like Nocturne, Annie, and Yunara, you're never getting away from these champions. So if there's any BLG fans that have hope for this game one, y'all are going to have to start huffing some even heavier dosages of copium. We need to get into these fights. I need to see big damage, and I'll be frank, we have just not set up good enough battle lines for a champion like Ryze to really thrive. Even for Corki here, who's trying to land big ones, but this build is more focused on spamming spells and being really, really tanky.
When we see all this like dancing around, further benefits NIP because of Hoya's Shock Blast. He lands one of these onto anyone on BLG, and it really makes them think even further about, can they make this fight work? The power play for NIP with Baron has been pushed forward. They get rid of that bot lane tier 2 turret. They have the 2 lane setup pushes going. Guwon's going to bring a wave up in the mid lane. And I fear BLG are going to have to sack another turret, sack more gold. The tidal wave comes out here from On, but the turret was already broken down thanks to that crystalline overgrowth.
Trying to see if anybody from NIP was going to move. I mean, Bin has no Mega Gnar and is going to have to build this before this Dragon here. Really impressive to see Hoya. I know you were kind of mentioning it here, but the Cyclo Sword doing a lot of heavy lifting. The fact that it now makes your abilities proc, the Energize proc, flat lethality, and 10% of current HP, that's huge. Shun's going to look. Bin has no Mega. He has no Rage Bar built right now.
Yeah, and he got 2-tapped by Assum, not even transcended, to get down to about 60% HP. He's going to have to teleport back in with that shield, but look at Care waiting in the wings. BLG, they're just giving Cloud Soul, by the way. There it is.
No respect being shown. No ability to do anything here for BLG. There's not a Baron that they can roam warp to. There's a top wave that's pushing, and Bin for his CS lead has really just been farming waves and doing a whole lot of nothing here in this game. So good job to NIP. You now have a 3,000 gold lead. You have Cloud Soul on some of the best champions to have access to this buff. Now it comes down to, are we going to see a big fight, or are we going to wait to one of these end game objectives? The Elder that spawns in 5.5 and the Baron in 3.
The biggest question we were asking about NIP going into this matchup, are you a real top 14? And more importantly, if you want to be a top 14, can you win without Assum blowing away opponents? And Care has answered the call, but Shun finds a mega cataclysm. Care does go into the stasis, but he's at about 5% HP. Viper finds the kill. Shun with the GA pops back up. Been on the front line though is Mini. Assum tries to step up, and Hoya gets deleted. That's Knight going into the stasis and gets rid of Assum. And here comes the turn from BLG. They bought their time for so long for this very moment to shut down the comeback and slam the door in the face of NIP. Zhuo, the only one to survive, but with these long death timers, the main assault of Bilibili Gaming shall march forward down mid lane.
They've got 3 grubs, but can they end? That is half a minion wave right now, and they don't even have a realm warp to really move forward. It is all about protecting the minions. I like this from Shun. Tank the turret shots, get all this damage down. The minions are the most important part with such long death timers.
Shades of Game 1 the last time this series went, but roles reverse. BLG pushing to try and end as death timers come up close, but they will not come up in time. It may have been slippery, but BLG will win Game 1, win their first game against NIP in Split 2.
That is completely insane, by the way. This gold graft is going to be terrible.
Ooh,
I already know it.
Terrible?
It is coming.
It's going to be awesome.
No, it is not. He did not win tonight.
Oh.
So, man, that is a really tough loss there coming in for NIP. You were doing so well at being able to bounce back, but I mean, what did we say a couple of minutes ago? If you can buy time for Rise, if you can let him let loose in these fights, he can win. Every fight in that mid game was, oh crap, our Rise can't actually play in this. Someone's dead beforehand.
Yeah, oh crap, our Rise can't play. Oh crap, our Corki can't step up. Oh crap, our Nard isn't even in the fight. We were kind of setting that up, Og, that it was like, yes, NIP's comeback, this looks really good, but they've never actually 5v5. They've never, like, thrown down a huge team fight to really seal in this comeback, and we saw why. Because once that 5v5 happened, once BLG finally felt confident that they could look for an engage in this game, it was wraps.
Wow, this is insane. Just the fact that they were able to come back off of one fight, by the way. The game, by all intent, this is exactly like their first series, man. The team with Soul loses the game. I don't know why.
You were also so close with your prediction because we almost got to 40 minutes. You also, I guess, had the team switched in the fact that BLG had to, like, come back again to win it. But honestly, I want to give you some sort of brownie points for that prediction because if you take away the names on this game, it felt like exactly what you were trying to tell a tale of for this Game 1, Dimitri.
Very close, unfortunately. My prediction as to who would end up winning that series or that game didn't end up going wrong. For all intents and purposes, for folks at home, I do still have BLG winning. I just have it as a 2-1, which is looking... I would say it's looking more likely, but the next part of the earlier prediction off air was that the next 2 games for BLG were going to be super one-sided.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It makes the 2-1 prediction a little less, if I'm really going for that, but I really want to give hats off to NIP for what a impressive mid-game that they were able to play, and particularly being able to bounce back from an 8,000 gold lead.
And to piggyback off that, the point that I was trying to make before Shun decided to end the game was that mid-game you were talking about. It was exactly what we wanted to see from NIP. It wasn't like awesome running over fights and really pushing the tempo. You called it out. Care was playing these fights really well with some really clutch tippers, and then Hoya ends up doing a ton of damage, gets a lot of value out of this chase. Guwon, of course, was always the mastermind behind a lot of these engages, so right up until the end, it felt like we were finally getting what we wanted from NIP, showing that they could win a game against a big-time opponent with their top side. We were so close.
Oh, brother. I'm so sad. Fortunately, we did have I just want to say it for folks, we did have a small error with on our production side, so we weren't able to get that gold graph. I feel bad for everybody because I really did want to see it. I'm going to just really quickly see if I can scour the LPL Weibo because maybe they have it posted immediately. Nope, I'm probably going to have to wait another 10 minutes to have that up. But either way, taking this game in segments. First 15 minutes, BLG are winning. I think really innovative path from Shun to kind of make up for what was an early invade from Guwon. Plays to the bottom side. Then Assum and Zhuo lose in the 2v2 multiple times to Viper and On. Then we move to what is 16 to 25, 30 minutes where, like you had mentioned, multiple picks onto Knight, who was trying to play a really fast game. I think also, I still have a lot of criticisms for Bin because it felt like BLG kind of let him farm his game. You got to keep picking up waves, but never really showed up on the right timers or didn't have Mega Gnar at the right time. So I don't know. I feel like this was, if anybody like if we're using the like phrase of like didn't deserve a win, I would say Bin absolutely got carried in this game.
I would wholeheartedly agree. He quite literally never gets a teamfight Mega Gnar ult off. Like, if I tell you a Gnar player doesn't get to cast his ult in a meaningful teamfight, most of you at home are going to tell me that Gnar loses.
Yeah.
So that's enough in its own. I mean, this was the only time we thought he'd get the Gnar ultimate off, and even then, it's a polymorph to stifle it.
I am looking at this gold graph. This is disgusting. We were able to pull
do you have it?
via feed. I posted it in our chat. Yeah, we're gonna see if we can get it on the screen. It is gonna be a little low res. Just deal with it, folks. You're just gonna have to. This is a free stream after all, so beggars can't be choosers. This is the fight, man. What happened here? Assum literally has infinite damage. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. Oh my god, that overload almost did not land. That looked like that did not land. Very close to not doing so.
Yeah, and the first kill Knight finally gets there. It's just classic Actualizer Rise where he gets through one cycle of spells, blows him up. All right, Ice Fire, you have it? Okay, so let's try. Okay.
Hide the bin. Hide the. I like how it's covering the Giga bin. I like that it's covering the Giga bin.
Oh, sweet mercy.
That is awful. That is.
See, you know what? Oh, we were talking about this. I'm going to do this for a moment. I'm wearing the Sixers jersey. You were trying to understand sports. Okay, the yellow is my 76ers. And this is basically how the series went. So, right there.
So they were winning, and then actually, they like kind of teased you with a loss.
I now realize that I'm completely incorrect. That is not how the series went. I've led you further astray. We're gonna pivot away from that.
Good job, Sixers fan.
Yeah, I'm doing a great job. You still can't ruin my happiness. There's no way to do it. Shun, speaking of the happiness, I guess he ends up with player of the game. I don't really hate giving it to him purely because that Cataclysm he got won them the game. So
Yeah, I could have also seen Knight getting this. I actually am really interested to see what the votes are going to be because I have a feeling a lot of the votes coming in were like, oh, you're prepping for an NIP win maybe.
Wow.
7 out of 8 and a 1 for On. What are our observers cooking here? I think On was mostly a passenger this game, but congratulations to Shun and congratulations to BLG for coming back. I don't think Danny is going to be very happy about that game going into review.
Gosh, you know, I hope we get a Danny reaction to that game because we already have so many amazing Danny reactions to some of these BLG just games in general. We'll have to wait on that. NIP don't have a lot of time to wait. They immediately have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they were doing right, what went wrong, and most importantly, how can they keep this series alive? Game 2 could be the final one. BLG looking for revenge against one of the very few teams that have beaten them so far in Split 2. Will we see NIP repeat history, or will BLG get the revenge? We'll find out that and much more after a short break for Game 2 draft.